So, welcome back to another episode of Rugspirations, where we get to meet modern rug makers from all over. And today we have a special guest, a punch needle artist, Katie Stackhouse from Calgary, Alberta. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So, I have so much to talk about. I love punch, as many people know who follow me. But I imagine you love it a lot too, because I don't think I've ever seen you do traditional rug hooking. Or
No, I've
okay.
never done traditional rug hooking. I would love to take a class. I think it's just one of those things where you get into your own projects and your own craft, and
Yeah,
you don't always have time to explore all the things you want.
I know. I have a list, actually, an ongoing sort of mental list, mostly because I don't even take the time to write it down, of all the things I want to try.
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
keeps growing. It keeps growing.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, well, we'll get started with our questions. And as people know that have watched this, it's sort of the same six questions. We just take it in different ways. But who or what got you started in rug making?
So interestingly, I had a project in mind that I wanted to create. So I knew that I wanted to create this series of Pennsylvania Dutch hex signs. And at the time, I was thinking like, well, maybe I'll applique them, maybe I'll embroider. Um, and then I was just on the internet, on Instagram, and I came, as we are,
Yeah.
and I came across Rose Perlman, and that was in, I think, early 2017, somewhere in there. And I just reached out to her and I said, like, what is this? Like, I don't, like,
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before. Um, it was kind of just like right before it sort of blew up. And she was like so generous, sharing like some of her time and like the tools and where to get things. Because she was selling some kits and stuff at that time in the US, but I'm like, I'm in Canada.
Mhm.
So then I ordered all of my stuff and started playing around with it. And then the rest is history.
And did you fall in love right away? Were you like, oh, this is so
Yeah,
amazing?
I fell in love right away. I felt like I could see that this could allow me to sort of create a lot of different ideas that I had, all with the same medium.
Okay. And were you
So,
a
yeah.
fiber artist of different mediums before?
So, my background is I'm a graphic designer, and um, I decided to step back from that and stay home with my kids, and was always just experimenting with like other crafts. So, polymer clay or needlepoint or, just whatever I could get my hands on, but nothing was really, I was like a serial crafter, is what
Yeah.
I would call myself.
Yes.
Um, and then I felt like as soon as I found punch needle, I was like, no, this is the thing that
Yeah.
is sort of ticking all the boxes for me. And that I felt like it was a medium that was just really flexible.
Wow. And so when did you decide that you wanted to take this further and do your certification, like your Oxford certification?
Well, I think I just was like creating like fairly prolifically. And actually, I met an online friend, Rebecca Martin of Storyteller. Lots of online friendships.
Yeah.
So Rebecca of Storyteller, well, we started just chatting in each other's DMs, and she had done her teacher certification, and so she had said, "You need to do this. This is for you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd already started teaching a few classes locally, and she's like, You really need to look into this." So I did.
So what year was it that you did your certification?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah,
So just before.
2019. Yeah, spring 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so right before it all shut down.
Oh, amazing.
Yes,
Amazing. That's awesome. Yes,
yes.
I got to reach out to Rebecca because I would love to interview her too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she would love to come on.
So, do you have a favorite part of the process? Like, is it the designing, the color planning, the actual, punching, finishing,
It's
admiring?
definitely the designing. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
pattern design. I think that's really where my heart is. And I mean, I like the whole thing, but I get very excited when I have um, an idea for a new pattern, I keep a notebook and I just like write down whenever I have an idea. It might just be like one word, like turtle or something. I mean, I've never made
Yeah.
a turtle, but you know what I mean. It's just sort of a running list, and I'll just like write some little notes to myself and go look back at it and decide what I want to do next. And yeah, definitely just the ideating and the coming up with drawing patterns. I love.
Yeah. And are you one of those that will draw all kinds of different things and only pick out one to do, or do you tend to want to actually punch and make them all into mats?
I tend to make them all into
Yeah.
mats.
That's
For
great.
now, for
That's
now.
awesome.
I mean, I may branch out in other areas in the future, but for now, yeah, I'm usually like, this is the idea. I'm gonna flesh this out uh and punch it.
Amazing. And do you plan it all? Like, is it all before you start the actual punching? Do you know exactly what colors go where?
I
And
do. Yeah, I tend to use Procreate, which is an app on my iPad, and I draw with my Apple Pencil. And then I really work with a very similar color palette through a lot of my pieces. And so something, if you use Procreate or you're thinking about using Procreate for designing your rugs, it's really great because you can like bring in a photo. So for instance, if you have yarns, you can bring in a photo, you can sample those colors.
nice.
And then if you're drawing, you can bring those colors in. So yeah,
Yeah, I haven't
I tend
used
to
it,
do
but
that.
I don't have an iPad, so
I
but
mean, I highly recommend it. Before I had Procreate, I was actually drawing in Adobe Illustrator. Um, I would do a little sketch and then I would
play with it.
flesh it out in Illustrator, but Procreate's definitely a lot simpler.
That's what I've heard. I know others that use it, just like rave about it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I
Yes.
want to. I do it the
Yes, I
old-fashioned way with
definitely
a pen and
recommend
pencil.
it. Also works.
Yeah,
Also works.
it does. It doesn't have that fancy color though. Like it's you have to use your imagination more to sort of fill in like what would that purple look like?
Yeah. And I think because I just feel when I'm drawing on paper, I feel like I have to be really precious with what I'm doing and I don't want to erase too often. But I feel like when I'm on the iPad, I can just erase it as much as I want. I'm not ruining the paper. It just doesn't feel like as precious. So you feel like you can like make more mistakes kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you're
that's
free to
why,
experiment some more, I guess, too.
yeah, like I think you just feel, or for myself, I just feel like a little bit safer being like, if that doesn't work out, no worries. I can just undo.
Yeah. I love that. Um, is there something in your sort of rug making journey that you wish you'd learned earlier, or just something that you now teach, new people or new people into the craft that you're like, oh, I
Hmm.
wish, I want everybody to know.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think it would have been simpler to learn using actual rug yarn, which is like a super bulky, coarse yarn. I was definitely just playing around with different yarns that I had or could find. And I think when you're learning, it's a lot simpler to use rug yarn. And so I do recommend that people learn that way and then sky's your limit. But I think just getting that technique
Yeah.
is a lot easier when you learn with rug yarn first.
And do you have a favorite brand that you want to share, like what you like to use in terms of rug yarn or?
So I guess the second thing I also tell people is dyeing your own yarn isn't as scary as it seems. Um, and so I love Briggs and Little. It's Canadian, so shout out Canadian wool yarn, 100% wool yarn. Um, and I dyed the Briggs and Little Super as a base, but they do have a line of colors. They're quite bright, a lot of them. Um, but yeah, and they're economical. So that's a brand I recommend because I think it's really affordable when you're first starting out.
I agree. Yeah, and that is what I like to use too, but I'm always curious what other people are using. And I'm relatively
Yeah,
new to dyeing, so I agree. It's not that scary, except it's
yeah,
a little addictive. Like sometimes I just want to dye for the sake
sure.
of dyeing.
That's right. That's right.
It's a little
Yeah,
bit,
we can't be held responsible for that
yeah,
if people are all
yeah,
obsessed. But it's just a really great way to like control your palette in your rugs. If you're in control of dyeing the colors that you want, then
yeah.
it can just be a little bit simpler.
Yeah. Nice. Um, yeah. Do you have a favorite fabric or tool? Like, do you recommend people to use a certain something that,
Well, I mean, monk's cloth, yes. It's probably the most affordable option, and true monk's cloth, like from Dormil, it really is the best. Number two, unsung hero, is primitive linen. I really love working with it. I like the feel of it, and it's an even weave as well. Similar looking to burlap, but stronger and a little bit softer, not as like dusty. And it has the durability. So
yes.
I always like to recommend that because you can't always find monk's cloth. And then I think if you reverse punch, so if you show the back of your pieces, something that I enjoy doing is reverse punching on primitive linen. And then you actually don't have to fill it all in because the linen itself becomes like a beautiful part of your piece.
Yes. Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, and I
So I
tend to
love
use
that.
traditional linen because of hook, like when I'm hooking, like
Yeah. Yeah.
hooking. Um, but I didn't, and I don't love it, but it's traditional, so it's a bit finer weave. So I bet the primitive would be just a little bit nicer to punch with too.
Yeah.
I'll have to try
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
definitely.
Try that out. Yeah.
Um, can you describe what um, rug hooking does for you, or rug making,
Punch
punching?
needles.
Like you,
Sure. I just think I feel authentically myself when I'm making, and I just feel like I can express myself. And I think when I first got started, I was like sort of in the earlier stages of motherhood or like mid, toddler years still. And you know, I felt like you can kind of lose yourself a little bit, like in motherhood or your job or your relationship. And I just definitely felt like it was for me. And I was able to sort of express my personality and my thoughts. And it was really relaxing. So that's what I love about
I would agree with all that. And
it.
some people might not know, but you have an online business as well, and you do teach locally, and you do teach
Yeah,
online a little bit, or sometimes. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that, like about your business? What's it called? How do we find it?
sure. Yeah, so my business is called Midnight Creative, and on Instagram, I'm the Midnight Creative. The name came from I used to create a lot in the midnight hours. Not so much anymore, but yeah. And so I offer kits and supplies and lots of patterns, which I've been converting over to digital. So most of my patterns, and I think probably by the end of April, almost all my patterns will be available as PDFs. I think that's really easy for people to access. I do offer some hand dyed rug yarn, and yeah, I teach locally in and around Calgary. And I'm teaching. I actually have an online workshop coming up on April 1.
Yes, and April
Yeah.
1, for those that aren't maybe in
Yes,
the punch needle
that's right.
world, might not know, but it's International Punch Needle Rug Hooking Day. Is
Rug
that?
Hooking Day. Yeah, it's
It's a
International
mouthful.
Punch Needle Rug Hooking Day. And I was really honored. Amy Oxford asked me to be the ambassador for this year. And what that means is I've designed a free pattern for you all to download. You can get it at midnightcreative.ca, or on Instagram. There's a link in my bio, wherever you hang out. And yeah, I love seeing everyone's take on it. People making it their own. And the theme of the year is friendship.
It's lovely. And I do have the pattern printed out. I need
Aw.
time assigned to do it. And it just feels like March has been a blur, but it is a lovely
Yes, no
pattern.
problem. No problem.
I
And
love it.
it'll be up there for a while. If April 1st passes you by and anyone out there wants to download it, it'll still be up there.
Oh, good. Well, I do have mine, but like I said, yeah, one of the things I love about rug cooking is it waits patiently for you. Like
It
even
does.
it doesn't make you feel bad, or, it doesn't
Yes,
feel bad. You can still come back to it, even if it's after whatever due date, it'll be there and you can still punch away and enjoy it. And
exactly.
so I do have a
Exactly.
rug that you shared with me, a photo
Yeah.
to talk about. Let me pull it up here. Here we go. Can you see that? is it coming up on your
Let's
screen?
see. I do.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Perfect. So what can you share about this? First of all, it's so pretty. I love it. Beautiful
Thank
colors.
you. So I chose this one to share today. I think it's most reflective of the style that I like to work in. I sort of, I don't know if you want to call it modern folk art or um, I'm just heavily inspired by Pennsylvania Dutch motifs. If you're not familiar with that, the Pennsylvania Dutch were actually Mennonite, and I come from a Mennonite background, so my heritage is Mennonite. And I just feel a really strong connection to my family, to my grandmother, um, when I'm working with these motifs, but I just sort of like to make them my own. So the inspiration for this came from a book plate fractor, Pennsylvania Dutch fractor. And then
Fractor.
I've just sort of, yeah, fractor.
What is a fractor?
And so a fractor is two things. I'm like, how do I keep this brief
Oh,
instead of a
sorry.
huge lecture? No, that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's both sort of a style of writing, um, Pennsylvania Dutch German writing style, and also they would sort of illuminate or decorate documents. So book plates, birth certificates, baptismal marriage certificates, things like that with decorative elements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. That makes sense. Thank you.
Sorry.
Wow. And
And
yeah.
yeah.
And so how do
And
you
then
do
I
your
think,
color planning? Like what is your thought process for color planning? Do you have, like you mentioned, a certain palette is, because I've seen some of your
yeah,
stuff on Instagram and it is different. Like you have some with brighter colors.
yeah, some do have brighter colors, but I do incorporate the same probably 20 colors, just in different combinations usually within my pieces. So yeah, this kind of sage green, this kind of terracotta rusty color, I don't know what to call it, and lots of golds and blues, and the teal in the wings definitely come up in a lot of my pieces. Um, yeah, so and I just really like the movement in this one.
Mm-hmm. It is beautiful. And how big is it? It's always hard to tell on the internet, like when you don't.
Yeah, this one was close to 2 feet by 3 feet.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. And do most of yours go on the wall? Like, are they art for the wall, or do you also
A
you?
lot of them are for the wall. I recently completed a larger piece. It was about 44 by 56 inches, and it's for my front door. I needed a custom size for that front area. And that one is on, you can see it on my Instagram, but it's called Uncle Ernest's Farm. And it was inspired by my Uncle Ernest's pig farm
I have
in
seen it, and yeah.
Steinbach, Manitoba. So,
Wow. Now, do people use
yeah.
your front door? Like, I kind of wondered when I saw that it was on the floor. I was
Yeah,
like, maybe she doesn't use her front door too much. But is that your
we
main?
use it. It's my main entrance, and it's had snowy boots and muddy boots and
Yeah.
salt, and it gets vacuumed, and I'm sure it'll get a little gentle wash in the spring. We're lucky because we live where there's snow, right? So, and also put it in some snow to wash it.
Clean it out. Oh, well, you're
Yeah.
brave. I don't tend to put a lot of mine on the floor, but
No,
I love it when people do. I just sort of feel like I might cry if something
I
happened.
feel like I shock a lot of people. But I also just want to show like
Yeah, that's what they're
these
for.
are meant to be used. And
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I think it's wonderful. I don't know why. I still hesitate to do it. But yeah, I know that's what they're for. And I did buy a vintage one like online.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
somebody estimated, they said must be at least 50 years old and it's still in great shape. And I do put that one on the floor.
That's so funny.
So it
There you
obviously,
go.
yeah, it's excellent. Well, thank you so much. So today, I mean, for those might be watching this after the fact, obviously, but the April 1st event is coming up very soon. So that one
Yep.
day you're teaching the
And
coaster class. And
Yeah, I have an online coaster class, and you can sign up on my website. But also, this is exciting, Rug Hooking Magazine. I've pre-recorded a little, just a brief sort of 15-20 minute little video for them. And I'll be linking that up. I just got the link from them today. So check tomorrow.
I think they just
um,
posted it on Facebook
okay,
before
great.
this. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm just giving a little demonstration of some 5 alternative ways you can use your Oxford regular size punch needles. So I think that's kind of fun if you're, even if you've been punching for a while. What else can you do with it?
Yes. Now, one thing people often ask me, and I'm going to ask you just out of curiosity,
Sure.
do you have a favorite needle size? Like, is there one that you're like, I always use
The 10.
the 10?
Yeah, the 10 is my favorite, the 10 regular.
Yeah.
Um, and I just feel, I think it honestly is just that it's like more economical with your yarn. Honestly, that's all that it is. I do have a smaller mat that I did, just an abstract kind of coins shapes, and I did that in the 10, and my dog loves it. It's on the floor by the fireplace, and it's nice and squishy.
Yeah.
So I think there is definitely appeal if you're walking on your rugs to use that half-inch size, or I mean to use the 8, sorry,
Yeah.
to use that half-inch size. But I think if you're making wall hangings, and you don't need them to be such a high pile, I think that's honestly the only reason why it's the number 10.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you do a lot of ones with different heights? Like that's
I
something
have
I'm going to
I
try.
have done some. Yeah, I have done some. And then I think it's nice to use the 10 and the 8, because then you're going from a 1/4 inch to a half-inch, whereas the 9 is that 3/8, and it's like very subtle. So I think if you want it to
Yeah.
be a little bit more noticeable, it's nice to make that jump.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So many
Yeah.
possibilities. That's what I love about
Yes,
it.
so many possibilities. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. And I saw already that Facebook post by Rug Cooking Magazine. I think it's
Perfect.
this Friday. It's coming up, eh? Or the Friday the 30th or 31st.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't looked at it yet. They just emailed me, so
Yeah.
I will take a closer look myself and post on my own social media here shortly.
Yeah. And if people are watching it before then, I will put a link to it
Perfect.
at the bottom of
Thank
this
you so
video
much.
on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's free, so check it out.
And who doesn't love a free workshop?
Who doesn't love a free little demonstration for
Yeah.
sure?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Katie. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. I look forward, I love following you, and I look forward to your next designs on
Same to you.
Instagram.
Same to you.
So nice. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.